You were never sent here to audition for approval, never born to bend your spine so others could feel taller, never designed to shrink your calling so it would fit inside the comfort of someone else's expectations. You are the chosen one not because people clap for you, not because they understand you, not because they agree with you, but because something ancient and unexplainable lives inside your spirit and refuses to be silenced. Let them think whatever they want. Let them misunderstand your silence, mislabel your focus, misinterpret your growth. While they are busy forming opinions, you are busy forming character. While they gossip about where you've been, you are deciding where you're going. And there is a holy power in that separation, a quiet authority that comes from knowing your worth without needing witnesses. You see, there comes a moment in every chosen one's life when you realize that trying to control how you are perceived is the fastest way to lose yourself. You cannot become better while constantly explaining yourself. You cannot evolve while dragging the weight of other people's opinions on your back. Growth requires space, and sometimes that space looks like loneliness, looks like being misunderstood, looks like being talked about by people who have never dared to walk the road you are walking. But understand this truth deeply and let it settle into your bones. People will always talk, but their words lose power the moment you stop feeding them your attention. You were not created to be consumed by noise. You were created to become. Let them say you've changed because you have. Let them say you're distant because you are closer to your purpose. Let them say you're selfish because you finally stopped sacrificing your future on the altar of their comfort. Becoming better often looks offensive to those who benefit from you staying the same, and that is not your burden to carry. You owe no one an apology for outgrowing the version of you that survived on crumbs. You owe no one an explanation for choosing healing over habits, discipline over distraction, purpose over popularity. The chosen one does not ask permission to rise. There is a sacred discipline in focusing on becoming better, a quiet rebellion against mediocrity, a daily decision to invest in your spirit, your mind, your integrity when no one is watching and no one is cheering. This is not the glamorous kind of growth that gets applause. This is the lonely kind. The kind that happens early in the morning when doubt is loud and motivation is silent. The kind that happens late at night when old wounds resurface, and you choose not to bleed on people who didn't cut you. This is the kind of growth that transforms you from the inside out, so thoroughly that even your enemies can't deny the change, even if they refuse to celebrate it. Understand this: the people who talk the most about you are often the ones doing the least with their own lives. They have time to watch you because they are not busy building anything of their own. And if you are not careful, you will start living in reaction to their opinions instead of alignment with your calling. But you are not here to perform. You are here to become, and becoming better requires ruthless focus. It requires you to stop looking sideways and start looking inward. It requires you to stop explaining your journey to people who have no destination. There is power in letting people think whatever they want while you quietly sharpen your discipline, strengthen your character, deepen your faith, and elevate your standards. You do not announce your growth, you embody it. You do not debate your worth, you demonstrate it through consistency. You do not chase validation, you chase alignment, and alignment will always outlast applause. The chosen one understands that the loudest validation comes not from mouths but from results. You have survived too much to be distracted by opinions now. You have endured nights that tried to break you, seasons that tried to erase you, moments that forced you to choose between bitterness and becoming better. And you chose growth, even when it hurt, even when it was lonely, even when it meant walking alone. That choice is what separates you. That choice is why your presence unsettles those who refuse to evolve. They feel the distance growing, and instead of rising to meet you, they try to pull you back down with words. But words cannot chain a soul that has decided to heal. Let them misunderstand your boundaries. Let them confuse your peace for arrogance. Let them misread your silence as weakness. You know the truth. You know how much strength it took to stop reacting, to stop proving, to stop defending yourself against every false narrative. You know how hard it was to choose progress over pride, discipline over drama, self-respect over familiarity. That is the work. That is the becoming. And that work does not need an audience. The chosen one learns that becoming better is not about perfection. It is about direction. It is about waking up each day with the intention to be more grounded than yesterday, more focused than last season, more aligned than before. It is about learning from mistakes without living in them, about honoring your past without being imprisoned by it. And as you grow, you will notice something profound. The less you explain yourself, the more peaceful you become. The less you react, the more powerful you feel. The less you care about opinions, the the more clearly you hear your own inner voice. That inner voice is sacred. It is the compass that guides you when the crowd goes silent. It is the whisper that tells you to keep going when the road gets narrow. Protect it. Do not drown it in noise. Do not trade it for approval. Because once you start trusting that voice, once you start moving in obedience to your growth, life begins to shift around you. Opportunities align, doors open quietly. Strength replaces anxiety. Clarity replaces confusion. And the same people who doubted you will one day wonder how you became so unshakable. You became unshakable because you stopped outsourcing your self-worth. You stopped letting other people's perceptions define your value. You realized that opinions are cheap, but discipline is rare. You realize that being liked is temporary, but being respected by your own soul lasts forever. And so you chose the harder path. You chose solitude over self-betrayal. You chose growth over gossip. You chose becoming better over being understood. There will be days when the weight of isolation feels heavy, when you wish someone would see how hard you are trying, how much you are carrying, how deeply you are changing. But remember this: not everyone is meant to understand your process. Some people are only meant to witness the result. And even then, they may never acknowledge the journey. That is okay. Your reward is not their recognition. Your reward is the peace that comes from knowing you did not abandon yourself. The chosen one understands that silence is not emptiness, it is preparation. That obscurity is not punishment, it is protection. That being overlooked is often a blessing in disguise, because it gives you room to grow without interference, to heal without commentary, to build without sabotage. While others are busy comparing, you are busy becoming. While others are stuck explaining, you are evolving in silence. And when the time comes, your growth will speak louder than any defense you could have offered. Let people think whatever they want. Let them create stories. Let them assume. Their assumptions do not alter your assignment. Their opinions do not cancel your purpose. Their doubts do not diminish your potential. You are not required to correct every misunderstanding. Sometimes the most powerful response is continued progress. Sometimes the most radical statement is a life well lived. You are learning to walk with your head high and your heart guarded, not hardened. You are learning to love deeply without losing yourself, to give generously without being depleted, to stand firm without becoming rigid. This is the balance of the chosen one. This is the wisdom earned through pain, refined through patience, strengthened through solitude. And every day you choose growth, you are rewriting the narrative of your life. Do not rush the process. Do not envy those who seem ahead but lack depth. Do not measure your journey against someone else's highlight. You are building something rooted, something real, something that will not collapse under pressure. And that kind of foundation takes time. It takes focus. It takes the courage to let people misunderstand you while you understand yourself more deeply than ever before. One day, you will look back and realize that the moments you felt most alone were the moments you were being shaped the most. That the silence you feared was actually strengthening your voice. That the rejection you mourned was redirecting you toward alignment, and you will be grateful that you did not stop to argue with every opinion, did not pause your growth to satisfy every critic. You kept going, you kept becoming, you kept choosing better. This is your reminder: you do not need to be seen to be significant. You do not need to be praised to be powerful. You do not need permission to evolve. Let people think whatever they want. You focus on becoming better. Focus on sharpening your mind, strengthening your spirit, honoring your values, and living in truth. Focus on the quiet work that transforms you from the inside out. Because when you become better, everything around you rises in response. Your standards elevate, your relationships refine, your vision clarifies, and the life meant for you begins to unfold, not loudly, not dramatically, but steadily, faithfully, powerfully. This is the path of the chosen one. Not the path of explanation, but the path of embodiment. Not the path of approval, but the path of alignment. Not the path of proving, but the path of becoming. And you are already on your way. And as you continue walking this path, you begin to notice a quiet transformation taking place within you. One that does not announce itself with trumpets or demand recognition, but reveals itself in how you respond instead of react, how you listen instead of argue, how you choose peace even when chaos invites you to dance. This is the maturity of the chosen one. The evolution that happens when you stop trying to convince the world of who you are and start committing fully to becoming who you were always meant to be. You realize that your energy is sacred currency, and you no longer spend it on conversations that drain you, explanations that diminish you, or relationships that require you to abandon yourself to belong. You understand now that becoming better is not loud, it is intentional, and intention has a gravity that pulls the right things toward you without force. There is a deep freedom that comes when you release the need to be understood by everyone. You begin to see that misunderstanding is not always a failure of communication. Sometimes it is simply a sign of distance in consciousness. Not everyone has the capacity to perceive your growth because not everyone is committed to their own. And that is not cruelty, that is reality. You stop taking it personally. You stop internalizing their projections. You stop allowing their confusion to become your burden. You recognize that people will always interpret you through the lens of their own wounds, limitations, and fears, and once you understand that, their opinions lose their grip on your soul. You are learning that the strongest people are not those who dominate conversations or demand attention, but those who move with quiet certainty, grounded in self-awareness and guided by purpose. You feel it now, that inner stillness that remains even when storms gather, that calm knowing that whispers you are exactly where you need to be, even when the road feels uncertain. This is the reward of focusing on becoming better. This is what happens when you stop chasing external validation and start cultivating internal alignment. You become rooted, you become resilient, you become unmovable in ways that cannot be taught, only earned. There will still be moments when the old voices try to return, when doubt taps on your shoulder and reminds you of who you used to be, when fear suggests that staying small would be safer. But you are no longer who you were. You have seen too much, felt too deeply, survived too intentionally to retreat now. You know the cost of stagnation, you know the ache of unfulfilled potential, and you have tasted just enough of your own power to never willingly give it away again. So you breathe through the discomfort. You stand firm in the unfamiliar. You keep choosing growth, even when it stretches you, even when it requires you to shed skins that once kept you warm. You are becoming someone who does not need to announce their boundaries because their presence speaks them. Someone who does not seek revenge because their elevation is response enough. Someone who does not argue with disrespect because their silence is a refusal to descend. This is not weakness. This is mastery. This is the kind of strength that comes from knowing who you are and no longer needing to prove it. You understand now that not every battle deserves your participation. Not every comment requires your reply. Not every misunderstanding needs correction. Some things dissolve on their own when you stop giving them life. And in this space you have created, this sacred territory of self, respect, and focus, new things begin to grow. Your intuition sharpens, your discernment deepens, you become more aware of what aligns with you and what does not, and you no longer feel guilty for choosing yourself. You understand that self-honor is not selfishness, it is stewardship. You are responsible for the life you are building, for the energy you protect, for the future you are shaping. And that responsibility demands that you remain focused on becoming better, not bitter, not distracted, not consumed by the noise of those who are not walking with you. The chosen one eventually realizes that the opinions of others are fleeting, but the relationship you have with yourself is lifelong. And so you invest in that relationship with care and reverence. You speak to yourself with compassion. You hold yourself accountable with love. You forgive yourself for past versions that did not know better and honor them for surviving what they had to. You stop using your past as a weapon against yourself and start using it as wisdom. You turn pain into purpose, lessons into leverage, scars into testimony. And without even trying, you become an example of what is possible when someone decides to rise instead of resent. You will notice how your life begins to simplify as you grow. Fewer explanations, fewer attachments, fewer expectations, more clarity, more intention, more peace. You no longer feel the need to impress, to perform, to overextend. You become selective not out of arrogance, but out of respect for your own capacity. You understand that everything you say yes to costs you something, and you are no longer willing to pay the price of your well-being for temporary acceptance. This is wisdom earned through experience. This is what it looks like to honor your evolution. And yes, there will be people who cannot follow you into this new version of yourself. Some will resist it. Some will resent it. Some will try to remind you of who you used to be, as if your past is a prison you must return to. But you are not obligated to remain familiar to make others comfortable. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to become better, even if it disrupts old dynamics, even if it costs you relationships that were only sustained by your self-sacrifice, even if it requires you to walk alone for a while. Loneliness with integrity is always better than company that requires self-betrayal. One day, you will wake up and realize that the peace you feel now was worth every difficult choice, every misunderstood moment, every silent season. You will recognize that focusing on becoming better did not just change your circumstances, it changed your capacity to navigate them. You will handle challenges with grace instead of panic. criticism with discernment instead of defensiveness, success with humility instead of fear. You will trust yourself in ways you never did before, and that trust will become the foundation of everything you build. This is the quiet triumph of the chosen one. Not the applause, not the recognition, but the inner alignment that cannot be taken away. The knowledge that you stayed true when it was easier to conform. That you kept growing when it was easier to stagnate. That you chose integrity over image, depth over distraction, purpose over popularity. And that choice, repeated daily, has shaped you into someone who cannot be easily shaken, easily swayed, or easily stopped. So continue becoming, continue refining, continue honoring the call on your life even when it requires patience, discipline, and solitude. Let people think whatever they want. Their thoughts are temporary, your becoming is eternal. Stay focused, stay grounded, stay faithful to the work unfolding within you, because the world does not need another echo of what already exists. It needs the fully realized version of you, walking in truth, moving with intention, becoming better every single day. And even now, as you move forward with this quiet resolve, you may feel moments when the world seems to test your commitment to this path, moments when old temptations resurface and familiar voices call you back to a smaller version of yourself. They may remind you of who you used to be, what you once tolerated, how easy it was to blend in and be agreeable, how comfortable it felt to be needed rather than respected. But you have crossed a threshold. Once your eyes open to your own worth, they cannot unsee it. Once your spirit tastes the freedom of self-respect, it cannot return to captivity. You may stumble, you may feel tired, you may question yourself in the quiet hours, but you will not turn back, because something in you now knows better. You begin to understand that becoming better is not a destination you arrive at, but a posture you maintain. It is how you carry yourself when no one is watching, how you speak to yourself when you fall short, how you choose growth even when progress feels slow. It is the discipline of showing up for your life with intention, again and again, even when the results are not immediate, even when the road feels long. And in this steady commitment, you discover a strength that does not depend on mood or motivation, a strength that comes from alignment with who you truly are. There is a quiet humility that accompanies this kind of growth. You stop feeling the need to announce your plans or broadcast your progress. You learn that not everyone deserves access to your dreams, because not everyone will protect them. You become selective with your words, careful with your energy, deliberate with your time. You understand that silence can be sacred, that privacy can be powerful, that some of the most important work you will ever do happens away from the spotlight, in the unseen spaces where character is formed and resilience is tested. As you continue to focus on becoming better, you notice how your reactions soften. Where you once felt the urge to defend yourself, you now feel the confidence to let truth stand on its own. Where you once chased closure, you now choose peace. Where you once sought validation, you now trust your own knowing. This is not indifference, this is clarity. You are no longer fighting to be understood by people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You are no longer negotiating your worth with those who benefit from your doubt. You are standing firmly in your own center, and that center is strong. You also begin to see how growth changes the way you love. You love with boundaries now, with awareness, with discernment. You no longer pour endlessly into spaces that cannot hold you. You no longer confuse intensity with intimacy or familiarity with loyalty. You understand that love should expand you, not erase you. And as you honor yourself more deeply, the relationships that remain become more authentic, more nourishing, more aligned. Some connections fall away not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped abandoning yourself. And in that letting go, you make room for something truer. There will be days when the weight of expectation presses heavily on your chest, when you feel the tension between who you are becoming and who others expect you to be. On those days, remember that you are not responsible for managing other people's comfort with your growth. You are not obligated to remain predictable or accessible or familiar. Your only responsibility is to remain honest with yourself, to keep choosing integrity over convenience, to keep choosing growth over stagnation, to keep choosing your future over your fear. The chosen one learns that strength is not always loud or forceful. Sometimes it is gentle. Sometimes it is patient. Sometimes it looks like walking away instead of proving a point, like resting instead of pushing, like trusting instead of controlling. You learn that there is wisdom in knowing when to act and when to wait, when to speak and when to remain silent. You stop confusing urgency with importance. You stop reacting to every provocation. You become anchored in a deeper sense of purpose, one that does not waver with circumstance. And as you become more anchored, you begin to notice how your presence changes the room without you trying. There is a calm about you now, a steadiness that cannot be faked. People feel it even if they cannot name it. Some are drawn to it, inspired by your quiet confidence and grounded energy. Others are unsettled by it, because it mirrors the work they have been avoiding within themselves. And you let both responses exist without taking either personally. You understand that your job is not to be liked or disliked, but to be true. There is a deep trust forming within you, a trust in your own resilience, your own judgment, your own ability to navigate uncertainty. You no longer fear change the way you once did, because you know that you can adapt, that you can learn, that you can grow. You have proven it to yourself through every season you survived, every challenge you faced, every version of yourself you outgrew. That trust becomes your foundation. It allows you to move forward with courage even when the path ahead is unclear. You also learn to forgive more freely, not because others always deserve it, but because you deserve the peace that comes with release. You let go of grudges that once weighed you down. You stop rehearsing old conversations and imagined outcomes. You recognize that holding on to resentment only keeps you tied to the very things you are trying to transcend. And so you loosen your grip. You choose lightness. You choose freedom. You choose to carry forward only what serves your becoming. As you continue this journey, you may still encounter moments of doubt, moments when you question whether the effort is worth it, whether the isolation will ever give way to connection, whether the quiet work will ever be seen. In those moments, remember that the most meaningful transformations are often invisible at first. Roots grow in darkness, strength is built under pressure, and the life you are cultivating now is being shaped with intention, depth and care. It will not crumble at the first sign of difficulty, because it is grounded in truth. You begin to understand that becoming better is an act of devotion. Devotion to your values, devotion to your potential, devotion to the life you know you are capable of living. It is a daily practice, a series of small, conscious choices that accumulate over time. Choosing to rest when you need it, choosing to learn when you make mistakes, choosing to show up with integrity even when it would be easier to hide. These choices may not always feel heroic, but they are transformative. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, your life starts to reflect the inner work you have been doing. You feel more at ease in your own skin. You trust your decisions more fully. You attract opportunities that align with your growth rather than test your boundaries. You move through challenges with greater grace and confidence. You are no longer driven by the need to prove yourself. You are guided by the desire to live authentically. And that shift changes everything. So let people think whatever they think. Let them talk, assume, speculate. Their perceptions are fleeting shadows compared to the substance of the life you are building. You know who you are becoming. You know the work you are doing. You know the truth of your intentions and the depth of your commitment. That knowing is enough. It steadies you. It carries you forward. It reminds you again and again that your focus is sacred and your becoming is powerful. Stay with yourself. Stay curious. Stay disciplined. Stay compassionate. Keep choosing growth even when it feels uncomfortable. Even when it feels lonely, even when it feels slow. You are not behind. You are not lost. You are not too much or not enough. You are in process. And that process is shaping you into someone strong, wise, and deeply aligned with your purpose. This is the path you walk now, not seeking approval, not chasing validation, but honoring the quiet, steady work of becoming better. And as you continue step by step, breath by breath, you will find that everything you need unfolds in its own time. Your peace deepens, your clarity sharpens, your life expands, and you move forward with the unshakable knowing that you chose yourself, you chose growth, you chose truth, and in doing so, you chose a life that is fully, unapologetically your own. And as this unfolding continues, you begin to recognize a deeper rhythm guiding your steps, a steady pulse beneath the noise of the world that reminds you you are not late, not early, but precisely on time for your own becoming. You stop measuring your life against timelines that were never meant for you. Stop rushing your healing to make others comfortable. Stop forcing clarity before it is ready to arrive. You learn to trust the process not because it is easy, but because it is honest. You realize that growth does not obey impatience, and transformation cannot be hurried without being weakened. So you slow down where you once rushed, you listen where you once explained, and you allow your life to breathe. There is a gentleness that enters you now, not the gentleness of fragility, but the gentleness of strength that no longer needs armor. You have fought enough battles to know which ones are worth engaging, and which ones are distractions dressed as importance. You no longer feel compelled to win arguments that cost you your peace. You no longer chase closure from people who cannot offer it. You understand that some endings do not come with explanations, only with lessons, and instead of resisting that truth, you accept it, allowing acceptance to soften the sharp edges of your past. You start to see your solitude not as emptiness but as space. Space to hear yourself think. Space to reconnect with the parts of you that were silenced in the noise of pleasing others. Space to ask deeper questions and sit patiently with the answers. In this space you rediscover your creativity, your curiosity, your capacity for joy that does not depend on external validation. You learn that being alone does not mean being lonely when you are at peace with who you are. You learn that solitude can be a sanctuary, a place where you are restored rather than diminished. And still, the world will try to pull you back into old patterns. It will tempt you with urgency, with comparison, with the illusion that everyone else has it figured out and you are somehow falling behind. But you have learned to pause before reacting, to breathe before deciding, to check in with yourself before committing. You have learned that alignment matters more than speed, that depth matters more than appearance, that authenticity matters more than approval. These truths have become your compass, guiding you through moments of uncertainty with quiet assurance. You begin to honor your intuition in ways you once ignored. You trust the subtle discomfort that signals misalignment. You listen to the quiet excitement that points you toward growth. You no longer dismiss your inner voice as fear or overthinking. You recognize it as wisdom earned through experience. This trust changes how you move through the world. You choose more carefully. You speak more intentionally. You act with a sense of purpose that feels rooted rather than reactive. And this rootedness gives you a calm confidence that cannot be shaken by fleeting opinions. As you continue to focus on becoming better, you notice how your definition of success evolves. It is no longer just about achievement or recognition, but about integrity, fulfillment, and peace of mind. You measure your progress not only by what you accomplish, but by how you feel while doing it. Are you honoring yourself? Are you growing with intention? Are you living in alignment with your values? These questions become more important than external milestones, and answering them honestly keeps you grounded in what truly matters. There will be moments when grief surfaces unexpectedly, when you mourn the versions of yourself that did not survive, the relationships that could not grow with you, the dreams that had to be released to make room for truer ones. Allow that grief. It is not a sign of weakness, but of depth. It means you cared. It means you invested. And it means you are capable of letting go without becoming bitter. You learn that grief and gratitude can coexist, that you can honor what was while embracing what is becoming. You also begin to extend grace more freely, to yourself and to others. You understand now that everyone is carrying something unseen, that behavior is often a language for unmet needs and unhealed wounds. This understanding does not excuse harm, but it softens judgment. It allows you to respond with compassion without sacrificing your boundaries. It allows you to walk away without hatred, to say no without guilt, to choose distance without resentment. This balance is a sign of emotional maturity, a testament to the work you have done within. As your inner world becomes more ordered, your outer world begins to reflect that clarity. You find yourself drawn to environments that nourish you, conversations that inspire you, pursuits that challenge you to grow. You become less tolerant of chaos, drama, and stagnation, not because you feel superior, but because you know what it costs you to stay there. You have learned the value of your energy, and you protect it with intention. This protection is not isolation. It is discernment. It is the wisdom to know where you belong and where you do not. You start to see how your growth quietly gives others permission to grow as well. Without preaching, without convincing, without forcing, your example becomes an invitation. Some will accept it, others will resist it. Both responses are valid, and neither is yours to control. You release the need to carry others on your journey. You trust that everyone has their own timing, their own lessons, their own path to walk. Your responsibility is to stay true to yours. And through it all, you remain committed to the practice of becoming better, not as a means of proving your worth, but as an expression of it. You understand now that you were never broken, never lacking, never unworthy. You were becoming, you were learning, you were shedding what no longer fit and stepping into what does. This understanding brings a profound sense of peace, a relief that washes over you as you stop fighting yourself and start honoring your humanity. You learn to celebrate small victories, to acknowledge progress even when it feels modest, to appreciate the courage it takes to keep showing up. You no longer wait for perfection to give yourself credit. You recognize that growth is uneven, that healing is non-linear, that strength is built through persistence rather than flawlessness. This perspective allows you to move forward with patience and kindness, to stay engaged with your life even when it feels challenging. And yes, there will still be days when doubt creeps in, when the old urge to seek reassurance or approval resurfaces. On those days, you remind yourself of how far you have come. You remember the nights you survived, the fears you faced, the choices you made when no one was watching. You ground yourself in the truth of your resilience. You breathe, you recommit, you continue. You are no longer afraid of being misunderstood because you understand yourself. You are no longer shaken by criticism because you know your intentions. You are no longer defined by your past because you are actively shaping your future. This is the power of focusing on becoming better. It liberates you from the weight of expectation and anchors you in the freedom of authenticity. So let the world talk. Let it speculate, question, and assume. You will not be pulled off course by noise that does not know your name. You will not be distracted by opinions that do not know your heart. You are walking with purpose now, guided by an inner clarity that grows stronger with every step. You are becoming someone who moves through life with grace, courage, and conviction. And as you continue on this path, remember that becoming better is not about reaching some final version of yourself, but about staying open to growth, committed to truth, and faithful to your values. It is about choosing presence over perfection, intention over impulse, alignment over applause. It is about living in a way that feels honest and whole, even when it is not easy. This is your journey. This is your work. This is your becoming. Let people think whatever they want. You will keep moving forward, steady and sure, honoring the quiet transformation unfolding within you. And in time, you will see that everything you needed was always being built inside you, patiently, powerfully, beautifully, as you chose, again and again, to become better. And still you walk, not because the road is easy, but because something within you has learned how to breathe even when the air feels thin. You walk because turning back would mean denying the wisdom you earned, the clarity you fought for, the growth that reshaped your spine and taught you how to stand upright in your truth. You walk because you finally understand that becoming better is not an escape from who you were, but an honoring of who you are becoming. It is the slow, deliberate act of choosing yourself without cruelty, choosing growth without arrogance, choosing peace without apology. You no longer rush your healing to prove anything to anyone. You understand now that wounds close in their own time, that scars soften when tended with patience, that strength matures when allowed to rest. You give yourself permission to move at the speed of integration, not expectation, and in doing so you begin to feel whole in ways that do not depend on circumstances. Even when uncertainty lingers, there is a steadiness inside you, a calm awareness that you are capable of navigating whatever comes next. You begin to notice how your inner dialogue changes. The harshness fades. The constant self-questioning quiets. In its place grows a voice that is firm yet kind, honest yet encouraging. You stop speaking to yourself as if you are a problem to be fixed and start speaking to yourself as someone worthy of care. This shift alone changes everything, because how you speak to yourself determines how you show up in the world, how you treat others, how you interpret setbacks, how you define success. And now, your words are building you instead of breaking you. You also learn to sit with discomfort without immediately trying to escape it. You understand that growth often feels awkward before it feels empowering, that clarity often arrives after confusion, not before it. You stop labeling every uneasy feeling as a sign you are doing something wrong. Sometimes it is simply a sign you are doing something new, and instead of retreating, you stay present. You breathe through it, you listen. You let the discomfort teach you rather than chase you away. As you continue focusing on becoming better, you find yourself less interested in proving anything to anyone. You no longer need to announce your boundaries because you enforce them quietly. You no longer need to explain your choices because you trust them. You no longer need to compare your path to anyone else's because you know your journey is uniquely yours. This freedom from comparison is not indifference, it is self-respect. It is the deep knowing that your life does not need to look like anyone else's to be meaningful. You begin to understand the difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness feels like absence, like something is missing. Solitude feels like presence, like you have finally arrived within yourself. And the more comfortable you become in your own company, the less you tolerate connections that require you to abandon yourself. You choose quality over quantity, depth over noise, truth over familiarity, and while this may shrink your circle, it expands your peace. You start to recognize patterns that once held power over you. You see how fear once disguised itself as practicality, how self-doubt once masqueraded as humility, how people-pleasing once passed for kindness. With awareness comes choice, and with choice comes freedom. You no longer move on autopilot. You pause, you reflect, you respond with intention. This is the mark of someone who is no longer asleep in their own life. There are moments when pride tries to creep in, when the mind whispers,